welcome to Sci-Fi Guys episode 2. Tonight I am joined by Dom from Toy Domination, Timbo of Timbo Toys, and Pirates of the Galaxy. What's going on tonight, guys? Ready to talk about some geeky stuff or what?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Right on, right on. So usually I start every show, this is only our second one, but I start a show with a clip. So I'm going to set up a real moldy oldie here. And I've been thinking about this movie for the last 6 weeks, and yesterday I finally watched it again for the first time in probably 20 years. So I'll get this set up and then we'll get into it.
Oh yes.
Commentary.
Dredge, what do they want? They want you, kid. Same way I want you, only dead. How do you know they want me dead?
That was a cool scene.
Yeah.
So I watched this with my boys and they loved it. It was really good. The animation, I feel the animation's really good, but I also feel it's over animated. Like they put too much emphasis in the people's facial expressions. Sometimes you're like,
Yeah.
it's like they're made out of clay. You're like, stay still. But it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing I thought about this when I rewatched this movie, it's like the drag are made of that blue stuff. It's like they just figured out how to do that and totally overused everything in the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The most 90s scene in this movie is when they have the spaceship and they have that 90s alt rock, you can believe, and crashing through the sky. And I was like, oh my god, this is cheesy then.
It was like that Cosmic Castaway song, and then I think there's but it's a bunch of those top 40 early 90s pop alternative bands.
Yeah. This movie actually reminded me a lot of heavy metal. Obviously not the same level of gore and stuff, but the kind of style of the drawing style of the characters kind of reminds me of heavy metal. Not the second one, the first movie.
Well, it's definitely Star Wars inspired. You got Cal who looks like Luke Skywalker, and then you've got the Han Solo type guy with cool with his blaster and stuff.
This bug's gonna die.
Oh yeah, this is the best part.
Yeah. Murder.
Doesn't work hard.
No look shot. Bam. And
I love how the eyes drop off last.
I don't like how he had human teeth there, human dentures in his mouth, he was wearing.
Yeah, that was weird. That was really very off-putting. But yeah, no, it is funny to watch this movie. How apparently this was not good for Fox Animation. It just didn't catch
nope.
They wanted. It cost the studio a lot of money. They actually lost on this movie.
Yeah, Drew Barrymore, Matt Damon, yeah,
some big names.
Oh yeah, the cast alone.
Tim, did you want to say anything? I feel like I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that the bad guys remind me of the robots in Lost in Space, the new series.
Oh yeah, yes.
Oh yeah,
totally.
Great show, by the way. Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah, my family loved
Very
it.
well.
Yeah. We'll have to touch on that one in the future because I was really impressed with that show for sure.
Yep.
But I don't know. I've back in the day, when you didn't have all the streaming and stuff, I always kind of had this VHS tape in my player when I was just doing stuff around the house.
Yeah. This is a good one, and Treasure Planet still holds up really well too. Those are both two good, same kind of era-ish type sci-fi movies. But my sons really like this one a lot.
Yeah, I always wondered too here with that scene. Well, we'll get to it when the screen actually breaks, and he's like exhale or whatever. I'm like, I wonder if that would actually work in space. I doubt it. I don't know.
No, yes. So
that does work. Yeah.
Yeah, if you watch The Expanse, they do a lot of good. What happens with pressure and freezing and stuff out in space. Battlestar Galactica was the same thing too. Breathe out, and the thing shatters, and they go out there, and you slowly watch them freezing over. So, no, yeah, you don't go Total Recall in space like the '80s used to think.
Oh yeah.
Where your eyes bulge out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
this was I don't know. This was one of those movies too that was just screams the 90s. Even the situation where it's father leaves his son behind for the better of like mankind, and he hates him still for it. Blah blah blah.
No, that's cool. I had that ship as a toy too.
And
It's
now
kind
that
of
you
fun.
watch this,
I'd
Yeah.
love to have that.
Yeah. I chopped it up.
was there actually like a 3 3/4 line or anything with this?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, I have some of the figures. They're 5 POA. That big ship that only could open up the pilot in the front, which made no sense. It looked pregnant and big, and like the smaller fighters are pretty cool too. There's one that has the ring around it that expands out. It's a single one that makes sense, and you can land like, on its rear thrusters standing upright. So that one's fun. And then my boys, I were just playing with this. There's like single individual vehicles that are like small that they can scoot around in. So it was a fun line.
Mm-hmm. I never even knew they had a line.
Oh,
That's
no.
the first I heard of it.
If you haven't seen Titan AE, maybe I don't know, maybe some of the younger viewers haven't seen it, but I'd be hard pressed like that anybody out there probably in our group hasn't seen that movie. I don't know. I run into the odd person that's like, "What are you talking about? I've never heard of that movie before." So,
which is very strange.
That's right. We had someone at work who
It is very
had admitted he'd never seen Star Wars, and we all just shunned him. Like immediately, the entire group just immediately shunned him. Like, you work for the Russians, don't you? Like, yeah. So.
No, there's probably a Russian version of Star Wars for sure. There is.
Oh yeah.
There's a Russian version of Star Wars out there somewhere. But yeah, so anybody hasn't seen that, go check it out. And moving right along here, we were going to get to our movie for the episode. So everybody's seen it. Here we go. So we're going to like review The Creator. So this movie, to me, it was like I went over it. I don't know, I probably passed over it like 3 or 4 times and like watched something else, then watched something else, and then finally threw it on, and I was pretty blown away, man. Like that, yeah. We reviewed last time. We reviewed another kind of with something that was supposed to be a Star Wars script when we did the Rebel Moon, and I enjoyed this a lot more than that. What did everybody else think of this movie on their first attempt at it?
I really enjoyed it. Like you, I thought it was definitely a better movie than Rebel Moon, but it's also a very different movie from Rebel Moon. Very well written. It kind of makes me nervous about, with all the stuff that's going on with AI and stuff like that. Could we end up in a scenario similar to this in the future? So yeah, really, really great movie.
I have many things to say, so Tim, you should talk now.
Yeah, get it in now, Tim, because Dom's about to go off.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. I really like the location that they filmed. I think I'm assuming it was on location. It seemed like that. I guess I don't know, but it just seemed like a bigger world, kind of like the difference between Obi-Wan and Andor. They filmed on live sets in Andor, and I think it felt bigger. And so I thought, this had kind of a bigger feel somewhat with, where they were at and how they portrayed that.
Well, before you go, Dom, I was just really impressed with like just the visuals and stuff in general. But yeah, so I'll just keep going through the slides here. But yeah, Dom, if you want to give us your thoughts.
So I think the world thing is a great point, Tim, because they juxtapose like technology and these huge servers or stacks or these giant landscape pieces in the background nestled with like Asian shanty towns, whether it was Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, it was somewhere in that Southeast Asia type feel, right? And like it was just so nestled together in this cool juxtaposition. I thought that was awesome. It was great. And then so this mechanic here though is one of my comments. So that's they spin, right? So it's a hollow right through there, and it spins, which is basically like the fans in your laptop. And I'm like, that's not a really good design. If you can see the stuff spinning around there, like that's gonna get all sorts of dust and dirt in there, but it looked really cool. But I loved this movie. Like, was not expecting to be this good, and kind of like Rad, I was like, oh, I want to see that. And I was watching it, and several times we all watched this as a family on Friday night because we Friday movies, and I was like, I kept pausing, like, this is really good. this is really good, and this is why. Like, and we would like stop and like talk, and then like, all right, we got to get back into it, right? And this is like my 6-year-old, 8-year-old, and my wife. Like, we're discussing this movie, right? So, but yeah, like the fear, the tech phobia of AI running rampant plays in our fears now. And I don't know how much spoilers we get into with like the cool plot twists that were in there, and the moral dilemma that they kind of had running in there without beating you over the head. It was pretty neat. And like the character reveal of like, hey, that LA, are we doing spoilers? Is that what this is? Can we do spoilers? I don't even know.
Oh, I don't know. Fair warning, there's going to be spoilers.
What?
Dom's talking spoilers, so if you don't want to know what happens,
Don't watch
turn
the
it
video.
Pause it.
off
Pause the
now.
video.
Pause it, go watch the movie, and come back.
I can not do spoilers if that's going to be like a big editing thing. Like whatever. Like I'm good with it. But everyone
we can talk about the whole movie, the plot, and
yeah. Okay, great. So
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool that it started with an incident like a nuke in LA, and that's plays on a lot of people's fears, nuclear warfare and AI. So I was like, that's neat. But my problem was at the very beginning of the movie, they did like this 1950s like robots in the future, and then they went to like the general was talking and had like a 1980s filter, right? And he's wearing an 80s uniform too. Like that's not what we wear nowadays. So I was like, oh, this must be an alternate history. Like they're showing us decades of how AI got to where it is. Okay. And then it cuts forward and it's 2065. I'm like, wait, what the hell? So like, why would you choose that aesthetics if it's not that old? I like had to pause. I was like, all right, everybody, let's like, I don't know why they chose that, but it's 2065. Okay. That wasn't alternate history. Cause we were like theorizing about like, oh, so that happened. Did they land on the moon? Like it was, man, that messed us up.
Well, and that to go back to your point about that, Dom, that's what almost when I first turned the movie on, I was like, no,
right.
sure I want to watch this. I'm like, this looks a little campy and goofy. And then I get where they're going with it. It's like those ads in the beginning of Starship Troopers, like, do you want to know more? Join the Marines.
Right.
Blah, blah. That kind of like
how I took it.
Yeah, exactly. And then we got into it, but the thing that I really appreciate about this movie, other than like the story and stuff, is like just where they went with the robot designs. Like you're not looking at something that looks like C-3PO with a set of antlers on his head or something like that. You know what I mean? Like these are like, this to me seems practical. This is how we would build robots.
Yeah.
For functionality.
Yeah, I thought it was also really interesting, the idea of people selling their likeness.
Oh.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was
especially with the whole strike that we just had.
Yeah.
Except there were Sims walking around who were old, fat, and balding. I'm like, who would choose that model? Like, here's all these things. Why would everyone should have 6-packs and like huge boobs? Like that made no sense. Immediately I was like, wait, that guy chose that. And he was in the commercial too. I was like, and you could argue like, well, he wants to return to that form. Yeah, he probably choose the form 20 or 30 years younger of him same self. Like that was the only complaint I had with that. Was like, why would you choose an old monk as your simulant form? Like, what are you doing? So
I think what it was, though, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I think what it was with those is when you sell your likeness, other people can buy those for their bots and use them. So that way it made the family feel a little bit more at ease. Like, for example, having a nanny that looks like a old, round lady that looks sweet and kind is a lot. Probably some families will probably feel like it's better to have that as a role model for like a nanny as opposed to like a hot, sexy, young number with big
well,
breasts
that really depends on if you're the kid or if you're the adult.
Yeah, true. But I'm just talking about we're talking a nanny, so I'm just giving an example with a nanny, right? So
it did take me a moment to kind of catch on that, like the picture that you have, Rad, of this this AI bot or whatever. They had very human voices.
Yes,
yeah,
it did.
That was kind of an interesting thing, just
that threw me off a bit too, because I'm expecting like, let's go and kill the humans.
And AI is pretty close to that now, though.
Right,
where the AI voices sound pretty close to human. There are times where there's certain AI software where you can't really tell. Like with certain senses, you can kind of pick it up because they can't say certain words quite as articulately as we can. But when you really listen carefully, you can hear it. But otherwise, there are some AI voices where you can't really tell whether it's a human or not. And now with the way the imagery is working with AI stuff, They're AI's creating images that look like, you know, random selfies and stuff like that, and they look so real.
Deep
So
fake.
that
Yeah.
doesn't really take me out. Like that didn't really take me out of that scene because of the fact that they didn't sound very robotic, because AI is almost there right now.
But that's also what I appreciated about it, was because part of the message too, you know, the protagonist, who I can't wait to talk about that guy, was like, they're just programmed. It's just a program. It's just a program. But then the entire time, the movie is demonstrating that these are self-sacrificing machines, right? Like this guy right here had an awesome, like even my son was like, Dad, that was so cool how he just sacrificed himself in order to save humans. And like, the fact that they didn't put robot voices on them, I thought sold that so much more. I was like, hey, you're blurring the line between humanity here, which is good.
Yeah.
And that was the point. I loved that
exactly,
about it.
Oh man, you know what scene came on and I just was like, oh, the vehicles, dude. This thing, that big
that
yeah.
thing was awesome.
Oh my god. When that
Over the top.
when the target would come down and it's just it's all locked on these guys and they're just running like, you know, there's nothing they
You
can't
can't
see.
outrun that, man.
Why would you design a target system that shows somebody like you're being targeted? I was like, every time I was like, this is just what they can see, right? The people can't actually see that. They're just showing this to the viewer, right? No, they can see they have a bullseye on them. This is the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah,
Like,
that
I
is
think it's kind of an intimidation thing.
Cool.
sure. but it allowed them to scatter. And I was like, yeah, that's why you don't do that. And this tank was amazing. But as soon as it popped up, I was like, how do they get that through the jungle? And that's all I kept thinking of. And then it was going towards a river. I'm like, this is going to make it 5 feet. This was the terrible choice, but it looked really cool. Yeah, really cool.
To us regular civilians, we probably wouldn't even think about stuff like that.
They also made the robots so that, you know, they were even human-like when they got shot. Like I thought, well, they'll just keep going, but it seemed like sometimes they'd get shot once and be down.
Yeah. Can you pull up the speaking of the robot, can you go back to the last one?
Yes.
This guy. Okay. This I feel like encapsulates, you showed the police, but these, I'm going to say rebels for lack of a better term, how they just have like old gear on, and yet it's got the clearly like CGI pieces in there. That's kind of like a souped up AK. It's this perfect blend of old and new whenever they show these guys. And that world building piece right there, every time they show the rebels, is like, that is the best portrayal of what you could possibly do with mixing, whether it's your actual movie cinematography effects or storytelling. Like, it was an awesome blend. Every time they came on screen, I was like, that looks real. It feels real. They act real. It was great. And everything was believable. I absolutely suspended disbelief. I was like, yep, I am sucked in this moment. Whenever these guys would come on and whenever the squads would come on, I was like, that was the best part I felt like of the movie, because it just was so believable. It was great.
Yeah.
Well, and every time I saw something like this, or I just saw acid rain like right away. Like big time, like you were saying, like the uniform on the robot, like that's very, very acid rain kind of like, you know, feel to like the whole thing. But it like, and there was so many great scenes too, like the big battle scene where they're like just everyone's running across the boats and stuff, and just the missiles. And then that gives you like kind of a scale of the tank. Like, I know how they got it through the jungle, dude. Like it just goes. Like it look
it just,
you know what I mean? Like it's just crushing everything in its wake. But it was just this like gargantuan, like ridiculous tank. Like it's like, oh my god.
It reminded me of Avatar,
like a mech or something.
Yeah, I was hoping for mechs with all these sims and stuff.
Yeah,
I was hoping for more mechs. But that tank reminded me of Avatar, that massive ship that they had moving around on that planet.
But the ship could fly over the jungle.
That's true, yeah.
The tank just sinks into the mud. No, it was really cool. And like the missiles coming out and stuff was great. The fact that they had, you know, human infantry like running around very badly trying to protect it was cool too. That battle, the only part I had a gripe, but I really liked this movie. Don't get me wrong. Like, I really, really liked it. But like, they're all at these sandbags. They're all just piled together, like 10 of them, all behind two little dinky sandbags. I'm like, what are you doing? You're all going to die. And then they're looking down this one lane pedestrian bridge, and this walking Coca-Cola can comes strumping down, and they're just blasting it. There's like 30 dudes shooting at it, and like it gets hit twice. And I was like, what just happened? Yeah, that they're just everyone's just tearing into it. I was like, you guys are AI. You should have the best targeting right now. Like shoot at its kneecaps, but everybody just misses it. And I was like, well, that sucked me out of this movie. And then another one comes out, and I was like, oh my god. And like it was just it's stormtrooper aiming and storytelling to like make the bomb happen. I was like, come on, you could have done something more there.
But couldn't that also be due to programming though, that
No.
those particular AI wouldn't be
No.
programmed because they're not military type
No.
robots?
No.
Okay. That's what I would have thought, but at least that's what I thought at the time.
Those running bombs reminded me of the one running orc in the Two Towers.
Yes, yeah. And if that, my son tried to say like, Dad, well, it's heavily armored. I'm like, yeah, I get it, but they're shooting it's like pinging off its shoulder, and then everything else is just missing past it, right? So like you could argue that they're bad shots, but then I would counter to say then they never would have survived against US Special Forces, which they're fighting with before, right? Like these are hardened veteran Sims. They have made it through it. Like they should have shot that thing. Again, it's such a tiny gripe. Like it's like a minuscule job, but it was this plot point where I was like, say what?
Like, it's funny you mentioned that, because when that scene started, I'm like, okay, they're programmed the guy is gonna run out. And he reminded me of the stupid droids from the black hole, those floating things.
Oh yeah.
Looking things. But I'm like, okay, so these guys, like you said, Dom, these guys are like androids. They should be crack shots, like zoom in. And this bomb thing's running at them, and they don't cover the control panel.
Right.
They're just like, do. Okay, there you go. Shoot the control panel. It's a bomb. It'll blow up. Like it's. Like,
I love the simplicity of the bombs too. Where like it's because they're anti-AI, so it has to be very simple, right? So I turn you on, and it's like it's been a pleasure to serve, and it jumps off and runs forward. I was like, that's awesome, because again, it's that juxtaposition between like this is the limit that humanity will allow things, and what's the robot that you allow? Well, it's a suicide bot. Like you know what I mean? I'm just like that's. I really that's again. As stupid it was they couldn't shoot it, the fact that they introduced a robot and it was just a bomb was awesome. Like I was like, that's really cool. So
yeah.
Well, and I love that I can't remember her name now, but the kind of the evil commander girl there. She was like as a bad guy, she was just like, oh, you were like, I can't wait till someone like stabs you or blows you up. Like does something to you. It's like that Joffrey guy from Game of Thrones. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh, he died. I was like, yes. Finally, you are dead. You were like,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Sorry. He's like, it's like you're like the worst human being I've ever like seen in my entire existence, and you're now dead. I'm like so happy.
She was a good villain. My problems. I don't like it when they show like U.S. Special Forces or any U.S. soldiers really to just be these like selfish. A lack of, just apathetic mercenary bloodline. Like he was going to shoot the puppy dog. And I was like, what? Doesn't like, these are extreme examples that happen with soldiers. That's not the norm. And like the whole time I was like, you just left your teammate there. Why are you like, they left their teammates. They were like, I couldn't stand them. I was like, this is not a good depiction. I know they're supposed to be the bad guys, quote unquote, but I think it would have been really cool. Like The Rock did a great job of the 90s movie, right? All those, I can't remember if they are SEALs or whoever, when they went in there, you felt empathetic for them as well as empathetic for the bad guys too. They could have done the same thing with those characters, been like, no, hey, we just got a job to do, get us in there. And then, plot twist, they're working for the wrong side, but they're still humans. Like that would have been so much better. But I hated them, and it kind of pulled me away from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Stuff like that's all it comes down to the writing, because a lot of the writers that are writing these things either have no knowledge of how military combat works and stuff like that, or don't even do their research half the time. They just I've seen this in a movie, I'm just gonna pop this in here, even though it may not.
They reminded me a lot of the bad or the military guys from Avatar, where they're just all jerks.
Yeah.
There's like one nice dude in the whole like military, and the rest are just complete a-holes to everybody all the time.
And these are supposed to be like elite, you know what I mean? Like these are volunteers. Like I was like, and they did the same thing in 30 Days Later, whatever that zombie movie. They woke up like the only surviving soldiers on the planet were all
Are all
rapists. I was,
douches, yeah.
I was like the worst of the profession made it. I was like, seriously? So that bothers me. Like,
I was hoping for more of like an Aliens vibe. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, yeah.
like, yeah, man, right on. Like,
I don't think it comes down to ignorance of storytelling about pirates to keep countering you. I think what it comes down to is the plot of trying to sway you to the other side. Sway, like they set you up from the protagonist's point of view with the AI being bad, and then the movie has to make that transition. So by tearing all the other humans down and make all the humans look worse, except the protagonist who can rise and have the change, then it's less hard for the viewers to make that transition too. But I think you don't need that crutch necessarily, right? I don't need to see them swearing at a little girl and holding a gun to the puppy dog. Like, we almost paused the movie for my sons. I was like, this is PG-13. There's no way they're going to kill a dog. Like, only John Wick movies kill dogs. Like, that's how hardcore that has to be to kill a dog. But
no, go ahead.
No, Tim, sorry, man. I feel like I keep like drowning you out, man.
No problem at all.
We enjoy your voice.
So I don't know if you recognize them, but we watched the new Willow show that came out. We really liked it.
I really hated it.
Yeah.
We thought it was fun. I can't remember who the Mad Mardigan's buddy is in that movie. The guy with the long dark hair. He was in this, and as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, I love that actor. He's so cool in Willow. But here he kind of played like not really a lot to him. You know what I mean? I really wanted him to like pop out more, but it was cool that he kept showing up as the cop. Like, he got killed, and then the person who inspected his dead body was him. I was like, oh, that's really cool. You know what I mean? Then he showed up to the raid, which was awesome, by the way. And then it was him. I was like, that's really awesome. And the way they showed the technology, how you could like jump over carbon altered style, which only get a little bit of your consciousness, depending how fresh you were dead or not. That was awesome. Like, basically stacking over. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah. Was the one guy that at the beginning there that they had brought in, and he was kind of undercover, and I think he punched him in the face. Was that Sturgill Simpson, the country singer?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't even know who that is.
Okay. He sang some songs with Chris Stapleton.
So I can't say, yeah, it is.
But
I don't know, man.
Okay. Look like him.
The scenes when they got up in the space station too was really cool. Like, towards the end of the movie, and they're up in right, like the hydroponics and like the farms in there, like they just awesome. they instantly, and again, Tim, to your comment of size, like when the blast door closed, there was people running. It's like you were basically at an airport. Like, they were running from the background to get up to the blast door. I was like, this place is gigantic, and like the farms were huge. They always allowed, not as much as Dune let the scenes just breathe the size, but it almost came close to that. And I really appreciated them pausing to be like, here's some world building for you. Okay, we're moving on. I was like, wow, that was subtle and great. Like, they did such a good job of that.
Yeah.
Well, and like Timbo said earlier too, like their location for that show, like that's like, wow, man. Like,
yeah, they did a good job of just making it feel really big. Like, I really like sci-fi movies like that. That's what I really like about Andor. Like, when they had the scenes with Andor, when they were in that mountainous, area, it just felt really big, like Star Wars. That's how Star Wars felt to me when I first saw Episode 4. It was like, this is a really big world, and that was just Tatooine.
Yeah,
exactly.
I and like the lived inness of it too, right? Like, there were shanty towns, there was the temple, but they had tech kind of shoved in places. I was like, this looks awesome, old and new world blending, because they didn't just hyper evolve the rest of society up to that level. Exactly. It kind of kept its agrarian roots, and then the Sims also, or the AI also blended in with that too. They had robot monks teaching kids with prayer beads. I'm like, that's the cool, like, robot monks were awesome. I was like, that is such a cool idea. They adopted our religions, like, just how well they're blending in there. But yeah, like, it was again, that kind of stuff stole my heart from the movie. I was like, this is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you definitely have a point where they just they took things, but they seem to just blend them perfectly. Like, it's like you got like regular monks and robot monks wearing the robes teaching kids, like, and then like it was just
Well, it gave
Yeah, the
humanity
blending of
to the AI. You
Yeah.
know, it made the AI
Yeah.
human.
Yes, yeah,
That
exactly.
They're part of everything going on, even, religions.
Yep.
They're part of it. They've joined in and are doing what, we do.
And the
Yeah,
thing
well,
is, too,
Exactly, right.
even though it's like 42 years in the future, it still feels very believable because of the
Mhm.
fact like they mixed in the old with the new, and that's both with the AI and with the human towns and stuff like that. Everything did have that lived in feel, and that's what really brings you into a movie, right? Because most of these sci-fi movies, or at least the older ones, they always have that nice euphoric, future where everything's bright and shiny and clean. Whereas the world
Or
we live in isn't like that.
total
Or
dystopia. It's
yeah,
either the two.
exactly.
Yeah, there's two
It's one or the
extremes.
other.
Yes.
Whereas this had a perfect, like you said, a perfect
Yes.
blend of the two, and it helped you. It helped you stay within the scenes, especially to like what you also mentioned too, is that they didn't drag on too long to demonstrate what the environment was like.
Mhm.
So whenever they were showing something off, you weren't feeling like okay, we've seen enough. Let's move on to the next one. They knew exactly, like you said, they knew exactly how long to stay within that scene. So that way it wasn't too short and it wasn't too long. And it flowed nicely into the next scene.
I agree. Yeah, the pacing was really well done.
Yeah.
So my 6-year-old tends to animation more, and he tends to things that are faster. But he also has this weird patience with certain really slow, but like Porco Rosso, he loves Porco Rosso. I'm like, dude, this is one of the
Wow.
most boring like Studio Ghibli movies ever, but he absolutely loves it. But anyways, he really appreciated a lot of the scenes in this movie. Like he's so funny and chill. He'd be like, there'd be some scene where it showed like the jets like cruising through the valley, and it just showed like the gorgeous valleys and stuff, and he'd be like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, yeah, it is. He's just like, oh, that's cool. But yeah, like it's the pacing of the movie is right because it still allows it to breathe. And then it's like, okay, now we're going to show you something action. Now we're going to slow down. And they never, there were some exposition moments, but they never really beat you over the head. Like no one said like, oh yeah, the Sims joined our religion a long time ago because they believe in blah, blah, blah. No, there's just Sim monks. The implied is they adopt our religion. And it's like, oh, that has so many layers to it. Like that's what was really good about this movie is they told you just enough and they moved on and allowed your imagination to fill in the parts of it. So
yeah.
Well, I don't think this is the end of this franchise that we're gonna see. Like I think they're gonna branch out somehow from it, or I don't know if there'll ever be like a direct sequel because things kind of got tied up for that story. Like I could see them doing like different characters somewhere else in the world, or I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was kind of the whole thing was that these synths were allowed to live in certain areas of the world, but they were like outlawed everywhere else. So it was like a big deal that this country's like harboring them and stuff like that. Like it's like,
and that's how it would go down too, right? At least that's how I believe it would go down in the real world.
Well, they were searching for the Nirmata, right? Like
right.
Yeah.
The creator.
Yeah.
Which
the creator.
which was really cool. So the protagonist was also really awesome, right? So like, first of all, there's not that many black leads for sci-fi. So immediately I'm just going to address that right now. That was cool. And he had depth. He had awesome prosthetics. He had baggage, and like the fact that he was tied to the woman at the beginning, and like everything about that character was great. And like he wanted to be a dad, but he was hostile to the kid almost the entire time, right? Like there were so many arcs and like progressions with him, and the whole time I was like, this is a really good character. Like I'm rooting for him. I'm empathetic for him. He's kind of a dick, but also he wasn't over the top badass. And I once we start talking to Halo, I'm going to rant about that for a second. I'll shut up. But he was just enough. He wasn't doing pistol flips to the air. He was just tactical enough that I felt like he was vulnerable, and that's where I want my hero to be. Like it was great. It was like I was like, that's an excellent protagonist. So.
Speaking of sorry, it's kind of where I'm segueing a bit here, but speaking of super over the top badass, I was pretty bummed out to hear that Carl Weathers died.
That was sad news.
Crazy, eh? Like I always like picture that scene in Predator where he goes up and him and Arnold are just like, or the arm on the ground still shooting the machine gun. But
that was funny.
But yeah, getting back.
I was just gonna say, touching on also on what Dom was talking about with the protagonist, is Isaiah Washington's just such a phenomenal actor. He takes after his dad. Like there's no tomorrow. Him and Denzel. I'm surprised they I'd love to see a movie with the two of them together. But yeah, he's a very talented actor. And I find he's a little bit underrated.
Yeah.
There's a movie called Tenet. He's good in that as well.
Huh.
Oh yeah, he is actually.
Yeah.
Really good.
He's very good in that.
I never
Very
even
underrated.
I never made that connection. I didn't even know that was Denzel's kid.
Neither
And he
did I.
also there's another he was also in the Rock's TV show, that football one. I can't remember what it's called, but he played one of the main characters, and he was the standout in that show as well.
Yeah.
But he's such a phenomenal actor. I'd love to see him in more stuff, and like you said, Dom, I'd love to see him in more sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, that was
Because
great.
I like to see myself being represented. Not always, but
No.
sometimes when it's an original story, I want to see myself represented.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be all the time. It doesn't have to be any race swapping or anything like that. I just want to see good writing with a good character, and it just happens to be a black guy.
And again, so we talked to our boys about this a lot. Representation, it really matters. And seeing a progressive movie, that movie was very progressive. And I'm sure there's gonna be someone out there who has like, oh, woke agenda. I'm like, calm the hell down. But I thought it was a balanced character, right? It was a good character. And I think sometimes Hollywood is desperate to show progression. Like, look, we're progressive, and they overdo certain stuff.
Exactly.
And they make Supermans, or they make what's it called, Mary Sue's or whatever. And you're just like, man, you did not do your own agenda of justice there. But like, to talk a little political, like, it was significant. I was like, this is a sci-fi movie with a black male lead, and it was great, right? And I was like, this is well done, balanced, and like, you're right. And it shouldn't be much like G.I. Joe, which is why I love G.I. Joe from the 80s. There shouldn't be a big deal about it.
Exactly.
Right. They're kind of,
and that's what makes them so strong, is because of the fact they don't make that the main topic of the story. Whereas like with a lot of those movies that have that woke feeling, is they make that the center of the story, and then they fizzle away the rest of the story because they focus on the things that aren't important,
instead of just normalizing the fact, like, here's another person. It's like, good,
exactly,
and we're moving on.
It happens to be black,
exactly.
It happens to be Asian, happens to be whatever. It doesn't really matter to me as long as the writing is good.
Yeah, this is like, well, to kind of, as we're kind of wrapping up our discussion about this kind of movie was like just one of those, like, it just felt like a breath of fresh air. Like after, like I've seen things come out that I enjoyed, but this was just kind of like new and fresh. Yes, there's some reused tropes and stuff in it, but they did their own thing with it. And like Dom said, and everybody said, like the main protagonist, the actor there, he didn't overdo anything. He just played a part. It was well written. He did an excellent job portraying that character, and it ended up working in the end, like, really well. So
yeah,
I didn't care about the kid at all. Like at all. I was like, whatever.
It's just like that secondary thing. It's like the movie The Golden Child. Like the kid's only there for the end of the movie when he's like, oh, other than that, the movie he could have just not been in the movie, and it still would have probably as good.
The whole time it's just like, just fold him up in a suitcase, just carry him through. No one will notice. It's fine. It doesn't matter. Yeah,
let's wear him under your coat, so like Obi-Wan did.
Oh, yeah.
That always works.
Oh, no thanks, man. All right, man. So yeah, I think we all kind of agree. We like the collector, and I guess we'll move on to our next
creator.
thing.
Yeah,
the creator. The
Creator.
collector.
I didn't watch the collector.
Is also a good movie though.
Yeah.
We're collectors
with Denzel Washington, actually. That was
weird.
Well, that was the Bone Collector, but.
All right, so our next segment, we've gone from our movie now. We're going to talk some comic books. We're going to stop. Well, we'll start with this one. We're going to do the Xmen Days of Future Past, the original story. So arguably, this has been like voted on many, many lists as like one of the best comic story arcs in the history of comic books. So are you guys familiar with this story, and do you like agree with that kind of sentiment towards it, or what?
Yeah.
It's good.
You guys know the rundown, right? Like Kitty Pryde goes back into her her or whatever, her older self, and like the mutants are gone. The thing that blew me away about this series at the time is I was like right into comics at this time, is that they actually like gave you that like just awful future. Like it was just terrible. Like it's not like you're reading the X-Men, they're saving the day, and then you're reading this comic book cover, and it's like Cyclops dead, Storm dead,
I know.
dead. Like it was like dead, 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 and you're like, wow. But it's like a really dark story. Like when you read it and stuff like that.
Yeah. Might
But,
mention too that it's only 2 issues. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
weird,
yeah.
right?
it's, I mean, today if they did it, it'd be like a whole year.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly. Yeah, the
the
summer
trade-
crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have the trade paperback where they loosely tie a bunch of other
Yeah.
issues into it, but it doesn't really make a like I don't know. I've got the trade paperback too, and I was like reading, and I'm like, this is huge for Days of Future Past or whatever. And I'm like reading, and they just insert these other issues of comics that really don't have a whole lot to do with the story.
Yeah, I think they're just in order of it. Like, so I think they're in like the order that, the stories were written. So the ones that come before it, the issues before it, and then the issues, after it. So
But they definitely put that big Days of Future Past on the front there
Yeah,
too.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, sell trade paperback. I mean, come
yeah,
on. Yeah, you're right. Nowadays, it would be the summer crisscross. You got to get all the X titles plus the one-off ones, plus the those.
yeah.
The only time I really bought into that is when Hickman started the
Howard's
X-Men.
X.
Oh yeah,
Went
yeah.
all in on that one. But now this last summer, I was like, no, thank you. I actually cut down all my issues from what they're doing now. But
Yeah.
but you're right, 2 issues, really strong issues. And I think why it stood out was there wasn't a lot of dystopian future, looks, especially when the X-Men books. So that made it jump out as like an alternate history, or not alternate history, but an alternate possibility, right? And so that made that storyline jump out. And the X-Men were surrounded with all sorts of mysteries too, like who's the traitor, what's Wolverine's real name, so like this was just one more of those, like adding to the like this future could still happen because like Mr. Sinister, who's he? Like every time you turned around, there's a new mystery in the X-Men, right? So like Lost, they never finished anything, they just kept making new mysteries, right? So but that was always like a touchstone to go back to. I mean, like the movie franchise had to go there too, you know what I mean? So like, yeah, it is one of the major X-Men stories. And I actually didn't read it as a kid. I was first introduced to it on the animated show. And like, that's the first time I ever saw that. And it was really cool then. Then we go back and reading it, I'm like, you did a good job of making this into a cartoon for kids. You know what I mean? Like it translated well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to kind of, unless Pirates has something to add, to kind of segue into that animated series, like you've read the Days of Future Past, right? You got the paperback and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How did it kind of hit you? Like the 90s was like, I think that's what, late 80s, early 90s?
Late 80s, early 90s. That's when I was also big into comic books as well. That's, I guess, when comic books were really at their high point. When like people like Jim Lee were really big, and Michael Turner and all those guys. I really enjoyed it, and like you, Rad, it's the fact that it started with such a bleak beginning. I was like, oh my goodness, this is the start of the story. I can't wait to see what the rest of this is going to be like. And it didn't disappoint. And like you guys all said, it's the fact that it was just within 2 issues. It's like, how the hell did you get all that into just 2 issues and still make it flow very nicely? Whereas like even nowadays, some of the longer arcs and stuff like that just don't flow well, or they throw in a whole bunch of stuff that's not necessary.
Weird. It was like that crossover, the Executioner's song. Like they just bounced it around to so many different X books. It was like, all right, well, every X book is going to have this story. Like, and I didn't enjoy the Executioner song very much, just because it just kept going and going and going, kind of thing. But to go into the segue into the animated side, yeah, like I loved their depiction of the Days of Future Past when they did it on the animated show.
Yeah,
like it was very like cut down, but I love it. I tried to find a picture of it, but I love the scenes where it's like the mutants against humanity, and there's sort of a Captain America and sort of a Giant Man, and you could tell that Fox didn't have the rights to use those characters in their thing, but it was just, I like the whole arc, and I love how the like Wolverine and Storm are like a couple.
Yeah,
and you have to make that ultimate decision. Well, if we save the future, then like we're not going to be together, and like blah blah blah. And it was like the X-Men cartoon actually dealt with like some pretty like heavy themes and stuff. Like even I remember Bishop showing up in New York City, and like there was like some aspects of like racism and like stuff like that for a Saturday morning cartoon. Like that was that was pretty heavy. And the was it the Friends of Humanity? of
Yeah.
mutating. Like,
Wow.
it's just like, wow, there's like a lot of like really heavy social issues in this cartoon, which kind of brings me to the end of the segment. Xmen 97. I am cautiously optimistic about this. I'm not sure because I hope they continue it on from like the last real season of X-Men. I think there was like a Nickelodeon one or something at the very end, kind of like they did with G.I. Joe, where the
Right.
last season was done by a different animator and it just looked really weird and stuff.
I think it's the original people that did the original series. I think they brought them back
Oh.
to do this. So I'm not 100% on that, but like you, I'm being pretty cautionary when it comes to this. Anything that comes up on Disney Plus, I'm always cautionary about, only because I just don't know if they're going to have some kind of an agenda, and that's the part that really bothers me. Is because I find a lot of Disney stuff, and I know some people don't like this term, tend to be woke, and when that happens, I find the storylines will suffer, and I just hate when they do that. I hate when they just put an agenda in over the storyline, and that just always takes me out of their content.
I
That's
kind
why
of hope,
I cancel my subscription with them.
yeah. Well, I hope they kind of just do what they did with the old episodes, like the old cartoon, and just take little sections out of the comic books and like from that era though, like from the '90s and stuff, and kind
And
of do that.
expand
'Cause
on
like
it.
you said, you can say it's woke in this, and it's like I think when they, like you said before, I think earlier, when they take the agenda and then build a story around it, it tends to suffer. But I think
Exactly.
if they just take the source material and like they can make changes, there's nothing wrong with making a change here and there. But yeah, I'm hoping this is really good, but I'm not sure.
So here's what's funny. I didn't notice this trend until I started listening to this podcast about 10 years ago. But like in our childhood, we used to watch Alvin the Chipmunks, Flintstones, or whatever, and there would be this continuous trend throughout all these shows in the early 80s of soda shakes and like people on roller skates and like 50s music and the leather jackets. I was like, what is this? And it's because that was what our parents screwed up with, and it was seeded into our cartoons, right? So like it was the next
Yeah.
generation, feeding into us, and like, and I and I can't help but see this right now as just like, hey, so here's what you guys liked as adults, right? So like to try and bridge the gap between the parents and the kids, I think that's what this happening, right? I am always like I'm not a nostalgia toy buyer, and I read modern comics. Like I really am into a lot of modern comics now. So whenever I see something that harkens just straight back to the old, like going right 90s, like right there in the title, like 97s this year specifically, I'm like, I don't really want repurposed nostalgia. Like that's not, I instantly get very, very hesitant to it. I'm always for like, let's go fresh, let's go innovative, even if it fails terribly. Like G.I. Joe Sympathy 6 failed terribly, but man, those are some cool looking figures at a really weird scale. But I'd rather they take risk and fail than go back and rinse repeat things to cater to nostalgia. And I know that's very cynical, and I know that a lot of people, like, I'm not trashing on how you collect or how you enjoy stuff. For me personally, though, I always review the creator is a perfect example. The creator stands out to me better than Halo or a lot of Star Wars stuff because there's no baggage attached to it. It's a fresh story. It's brand new. Like you just go into it. So like that's how I feel about anything that's rinse repeat, like 97 1950s. I'm like, man, I don't need that. I'd like something new. That said, I do watch the old animated cartoon with my kids because I realized I failed as a dad and didn't really explain X-Men to them very well. It's like, well, this does a good job. Same as Batman, like the Batman animated series. I'm like, this does a good job of showing you what Batman is, right? But at the same time, we also just watched Long Halloween, the DC or Warner Brothers one, and they absolutely ate it up, right? So like, I don't know. I'm not trashing how people enjoy their things at all. Don't take it that way. It's just for me, as soon as I see that, I'm like, I don't want rinse repeat. So
yeah, I can understand that, and it makes sense. I'm similar with, especially when it comes to toy collecting. I don't collect because this reminds me of my youth. Because
right,
if that's the case, I would have Eagle Force figures, out the wazoo, and I would have all these other old lines that I grew up with. But in general, I just like something that just appeals to me, whether it's
Right.
old or new, whether it's nostalgic or brand new. As long as it appeals to what I enjoy, I'll eat it all up. But there are certain things that nostalgia just can't always fix. And
Yeah, sure.
that's why, like you were saying, with this 97 being specific to that particular year or era, you're running into the situation or the scenario where you might offend people. Because especially if you're trying to gain a new audience,
Right.
they're not going to buy into with this 97 stuff
there-
because it's like, this feels so old.
There's either a comparison bias because they're looking back to what they had, right? So like it'll never be as good as when I was a kid because I
Mhm.
remember, or you're right, they're trying to repurpose something and it falls flat on new viewers. It's like, what is this
Exactly.
crappy animation? Like what is this stilted? Because if you actually watch the X-Men animated story, they have some really stilted animation in there. It's like,
Yeah.
and like he's like, it looked like they just took the cell and like slid it across the frame.
Yeah.
It was like, geez, I'm like, what was that? Like, but it's good, you know. And again, I'm not trashing people. Like I have been collecting for decades, so I'm not one of the people who don't have any of their childhood toys and suddenly go, oh crap, it's Cobra Commander and I can get him. Like that is awesome, and I don't want to take that away from anybody to like go and repurpose their childhood. Like that's fantastic. I just am very cautionary with the rinse repeat for me. That's,
Yeah.
again,
The other thing
you
too
have
about
fun.
that is exactly. But the other thing too about doing the at least with the X-Men anyways, is I hope they don't do it exactly like the old style, because
Right.
one of the things that I hated back during that Fox animated series, it was the background. I hated how
Right.
saturated and just unfinished
Yeah.
the background look. And I'm like, the characters look nice and
That's classic
vibrant, and then
90s,
you look
man.
at the
Yeah,
you
yeah,
look at the
exactly, yeah.
background. I'm like, what the hell
Gotta
background
say-
is
That money.
that?
Gotta save
Gotta
money.
say-
I hated it. It's I know why they did it, but I just hated it.
Nothing beats the original Spider-Man like acid
Oh
drip
my gosh, yeah.
background. It's like,
Singing
whoa,
from the clouds.
yeah. This was made in the '60s for sure.
Tim, what do you think about this? You've been very quiet about this.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. I mean, just I want to see kind of where they go and what they do, and is it new stories, and what I'm always caught with the visuals too. Like that's what kind of captures me.
Sure.
And, how do they make this look old, but also improve on some of those things like the backgrounds and so I'm just cautiously optimistic about it. There was a comic series that came out. I don't know when it came out. It was a Venom Lethal Protector, but it was
yeah.
Love it.
done
I
by-
still have it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was not the 90s one, but they redid that, and same artist. I think Dave Michel. I don't know who it was, but he wrote it, and it kind of had a 90s feel to it, and I really liked the way they did that. It was just a kind of a simple story, and thought it was a good way to kind of capture some of that original feel of a Lethal Protector, Venom Lethal Protector, but bring it into 2020, the 2020s, and still tell a good story, and a fun story, and make let Venom be Venom. And so kind of hoping that maybe they'll do something similar here with that, with just
And I
pull
think
some of these stories from the X-Men and animate those.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, some of the old '90s stories I never got to see or something. But yeah, I definitely agree with Dom. Like the forced nostalgia. Like for me, I've never really had a nostalgia for a thing. It's been more for like a character or a story or something. But like as far as picking up a 1980s Star Wars figure, like I could care less. Like
You're right.
it doesn't articulate. It doesn't do what I want
Yeah, I
it to be.
hate
So
5
it doesn't
POA.
matter.
I
But
like
that,
5
anyways,
POA. I'm gonna admit it. I like 5 POA.
So
Good
so
for you.
you know what's funny? I'm like purging this stuff and I have a box of stuff going to Rad, and I was like, oh, here's all these, like here's some Imperial officers, but the two figures I pulled from it were 5 POA Power of the Force, and I was like, I don't know why I can't give these up, man. Like the Power of the Force. I'm like, you can take all these cool like 2000s, but like I need these 5 POA guys. I don't know what. And the only Rebel pilot I saved from a previous trade was who's the fat guy? Jet Porkins. Yeah, I see. I don't know. I was like, you made a fat guy.
I
Like,
have
I can't
him.
get rid of him. You know what I mean? Like, and he can barely
Yeah, I
move, but it
have
makes
him.
sense. Like, so
they made a fat guy and they called him Porkins.
yeah,
I know.
lube me up and fit me in my cockpit. I'm good. I'm good.
I wonder
Just
if the black
slide
guy. I wonder
My
if the black
veins.
guy that got shot down, if his name was Blackie or something. The last name.
Oh man.
What's up,
well,
Blackie? We lost Blackie.
Blackwell's going down. Blackwell's going down. But anyways, that's a good segue into our last segment for
Is
our
it?
show today. I think so. I don't know. I'm gonna call it a good segue. It was, I guess.
You
you
guys
know,
just reminded me of The Office when they have to do the special, like, training with Michael. And the guy's name is Mr. Brown.
yeah.
That was all this guy. That was all this guy down here. I was just talking about the guy. Yeah.
Oh, since we were just talking
I'm
about
the
Star
token
Wars,
black guy, so
yeah, there you go. Since we were just talking about Star Wars, let's talk about Joy Toy.
yeah, that's a great segue.
Ooh.
But I am okay. Here's my position on Joy Toy. Like now, before I was like, no, can't do it. I want it, but I can't do it. But unfortunately, my work is giving out a bonus, so now I have some extra money. So I pretty much have all of these on pre-order, or they are coming to my house right now.
Oh, good.
Except for Scuba Steve in the middle there. I can't stand. I don't like scuba diving.
Same way. I'm the same
I just
way.
don't like scuba divers, and I don't like
because there's such a
smoke guys.
specialized,
Yeah.
there's such a specialized unit that you can't use them in
So
any
that
other
I don't like-
environment.
And
like
water
smoke.
levels on video games are the worst levels. Everyone knows
Yep.
that. Any water levels are the worst. I don't want to play there with my toys. They're just, so.
The original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for
Yeah.
NES, the water level where you have
Yeah.
to swim. That was the
jeez.
worst level.
Mario, any of
Mario
them, any of the
was
ones.
bad.
And water kills you in any other video game. So I mean, like, you just don't want to play in it. So no, he's a pass.
Well, you can definitely get these guys wet.
These
yeah.
these are fantastic. So I bought the builder pack for their last year's builder, and Joe and I got them, and they felt, we talked about this I think in one of our shows, like they felt dry, like the texture they used felt dry. They felt cheap and brittle, and like two of mine snapped, and I was like, oh, okay, well this wasn't that great. So I rolled the dice and got a couple of the yellow guys, the yellow armored on the right there. They're great. Like the joints are thicker, the paint apps are like gloss or like fleshed out. Like I like, they feel more sturdy and durable. They move really smoothly. So I kind of doubled down on a few of these.
Well, and that's why I was just gonna say the two I'm like most stoked for are the two on the ends. Like I love that yellow guy with the heavy cannon, and that I don't know, the other guy on the other far side. I love that helmet, just the look of it.
The guy
You
on the
guys keep
far
saying
left,
yellow, but I see orange.
So it's
no, the one on the very far right is orange. The one on the very far left is yellow and red. At least that's what I see.
Yeah, if you're looking at the picture, it goes right yellow, left orange, I guess I'm seeing it as. But
it does not help that both of those shades are on opposite ends, and we don't know our orientation. So like, it's completely
exactly.
There's one that is dark orange and white, and he's holding his gun up, right? And the other guy
that's orange and white.
Yeah,
okay.
he's orange. And the other guy with the cannon, you could argue is like a gold or yellow, but he's got a big cannon in there. So it's not quite the yellow as the battle for the stars yellow troopers in there too. And but it uses their same armor as what they borrowed, the arms and the legs. They just have a different chest. And then the blue guy next to the orange dude borrows from the other Battle of the Stars figures, the blue dudes. And that's why I got them, because I wanted to kind of blend them in together. And they're like, other than the chests, and then the helmets are different, obviously, but they fit right in with them, so it's cool.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, other than Scuba Pete there in the middle, or Scuba Steve, whatever his name is, the one I don't like at all is the blue guy beside the orange and white guy. I don't know what it is about him. He looks kind of janky or something.
Beside the orange guy, like the second from the side.
Yeah,
he's great. No,
I like that guy.
Yeah,
his waist looks weird. I don't know.
I just realized the one on the very far end that I thought was yellow and red. It's because I'm wearing my blue blockers. So The white looks yellow and the red looks orange. Now,
We
okay,
really
I
need
get
like
it now.
hovering numbers or letters over the heads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like
They need names. They need names like Carl and like Angelo, and
that
Steve.
would defeat the
Cool.
entire purpose. I don't need 50 Carls. The one that's most expensive right now is the green guy next to Scuba Steve in the center there. He's got the hunter mask with like the two like flat teeth. He went up for some reason like $23. I think he's the runaway hit for the line. I nabbed 3 of them when
It's
they were
because of that guy's helmet. That that particular one
Yep.
always sells out. No
Yeah.
matter what style he's in, it can have like the most atrocious colors, but if it has that helmet, it's gonna sell. And that one always goes up in price because of that particular helmet.
Yeah, he's the hottest right now. I got 3 of them luckily before they spiked a couple more bucks. I mean, like really in the grand scheme of things, I'm like, oh, it went $2 up in price. Oh, pass. I'm like, what? But I am in. I like army building these, and that's what I look for most lines is like the army building. So like my budget went from like, yeah, I'll get a couple $40 or a $50 guys, like, or I can go get a squad, and that's kind of what I've been leaning at. So
Well, and that's what I just ordered the orange crew. So
oh, cool.
this is what I've been like waiting on. Like everybody talks about these. We've talked about these 100 times. I won't dwell on them, but this, like, I would get these, and I feel like I can't separate them. Like I have to put them all in the same area. They're like, they feel like such a great team or whatever. They just match so well.
Such a great Starship Bay crew, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
That's what I
absolutely.
use them for.
Exactly.
Yeah, you've got like, you know, the old grizzled guy and like, you know, the smart mouth young chick on the crew and like whatever, blah blah blah. But their mechs too are like fantastic. Like holy crap.
Since the beginning, they've been making amazing mechs.
Yeah. Who from the world makers made the orange crew with the alien parts? They put Star Wars fans in there, Star Wars aliens, and like they've got them. It's awesome on their IG. I can't remember who did.
You saw Don?
Maybe it was, but like we just saw.
I think it was.
Yeah, we just saw one of these chats we're in where he was like, "Oh, these guys," and it's all. I was like, I want to do that so bad, but I can't sever my human characters, so I need to get like another set.
Oh, I painted mine. I made one. Yeah, I turned one into. You know, Kid Fisto. I forget what the Nautulin. I turned one into a female Nautulin. I painted her a light color blue, and then
sounds like a Pokemon. I know nothing about Star Wars aliens.
Nautulin is Kid Fisto's the one with all the tails,
okay, the tendrils,
all the tendrils. I made a female version of that character using his head. So
yeah, I remember that.
I don't mind doing that. Yeah, that one actually came out really good.
Well, and this
Tim,
was
Tim, what'd you say? Tim, sorry, Red. Tim, what'd you say?
I was just saying, I remember Pirates custom that he made. It was an awesome figure.
Thank you,
Brad. Did you get a new haircut? It looks really clean. Looks like
I
fresh
did.
and clean. Yeah, it looks like a fresh haircut.
Yeah, I did get a haircut. But, okay, so this was my figure. I was like, I kept seeing this.
We got a great view of your haircut, right?
Yeah, that's on the shrines. I don't think I've ever seen. You look like you're in the military, man. Like I don't even have one like that. That's amazing. Sorry,
it's usually how I cut it, but I just been being a bum the last few months. I'm just like, next week, and then someone I worked with was like, "You're looking a little scruffy." I was like, "Oh, kind of."
That's when you double down.
Scruffy looking.
Yeah. But getting back to our saying, this was a toy that I've seen on Amazon 1,000 times, and at the price point, I was like, never in a million years would I pay that. I just because I got a bonus, I just ordered this set.
Oh,
actually, that just came down in price too. I actually ordered one too. Because it came down to a reasonable price.
That's
awesome. Their New Year's
sale,
right?
I kept passing on that. I kept passing on it because it was really
expensive. I love the werewolf, man. I love the werewolf.
I actually love the female.
Here's my gripe with the Joy Toy price is that because that's Infinity, which is an IP, and all the Warhammer stuff is an IP, all those figures are 50 or 60 or whatever bucks. Like that set is amazing. And I don't know that much about Infinity. I did recognize some of the soldiers that came out, which is cool. But yeah, I really wanted this one. But when it first came out, I was like, that's way too much for two figures. I can't do it, man.
Yeah.
It's been sitting around now for a while. So I think it's finally creeped down. But I had no idea. Like, I just ordered it because I thought it was awesome. I had no idea.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Infinity.
I don't know about anything about Infinity. It was just like, I don't know.
Yeah, is it a
But,
game? Is that a
It
video
is.
game?
It's a miniature tabletop game.
Yeah.
It's super fun.
Okay.
Very small, tactical, like kill team. It's got some really cool rules in it. But like those blue
Those are my favorite.
space knight looking guys are really cool. Like those
Yeah,
reimagined figures are really cool.
Yeah.
when I'm looking for 3D prints, I come across a lot of
Yeah,
Infinity
there you go.
stuff. Like there's always the werewolf or like whoever else is in it.
Mm.
I'm pretty
But-
sure there's somebody that did like an actual Warhammer game with the Joy Toy Warhammer figures. Have you seen
Yeah.
that, Dom?
Yeah. He did Space Hulk. He did a recreation of Space Hulk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
Oh,
is really
wow.
fun. Really, that's like a board game set in 40K. It's really fun. I actually have it over there, but yeah, that was really neat.
There's
Yeah,
a version. There's a version of it on Xbox too. The Space Hulk.
Oh
game.
yeah, super fun, man.
That
Oh
was
yeah,
fun.
yeah. I know. I've got it. Yeah, I've got it on my system right now. But the new stuff coming out, man. Check this thing out.
That
Ooh.
guy looks sick. I love
Dude.
this guy.
Very
I
transparent.
got like a.
Yeah,
He does. Yeah, he does look like a transformer.
I was thinking Ratchet from the Michael Bay Transformers movie when I saw him, but a little more filled in, like a little more plated
Yeah.
than those.
I could see that.
Does this have the 4 arms? This has 2 arms in the back too,
Two
right?
arms. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But no, I love this. Like their reveals coming up
Such
here.
a nice, such a nice design, and I like the fact that they're taking more chances. That's the one thing I love about Joy Toy. Pretty much ever since they came onto the market, like I remember when people were first telling me about Joy Toy figures, I'm like, Joy Toy, what the hell's that?
Mm.
And then I saw the pictures, I'm like, holy cow, these things look
Yeah.
amazing. And then I saw the prices, I'm like, yeah, not that good.
Yeah.
It's like,
To
it's
be
too
fair,
ridiculous.
though, to be fair, some of the original Joy Toy stuff is a little like,
Well, it's very janky because of the fact that they were brand new and just
Well,
testing it out, right?
I mean, the
Yeah.
proportions too, like the legs are kind of weird looking
Yeah.
on the originals.
I got 2 of the they were like called the Russian Federation or whatever, and they were really cool in hand. And you actually had to like put their belts together like they were
Yeah.
models. Like you had to do a little tinkering with them. But both of those figures, the joints have not just broken inside, but like snapped. And like I've had like, and there's no replacement parts for them, right? And that's one awesome thing about Joy Toys later when you bought the box set. So like, here's some extra joints. I'm like, oh, that's smart. But then I thought about it. I was like, but you know this is a problem, and that's why you gave me these extra parts. You know, it's like, hey, these things are gonna break in you, so here you go. It's like, wait a minute. I think their quality as far as joints, like every time I get a new figure, it's better and better. They move smoother. I can like test the joint, and like that was a big deterrent for me getting in. Was not just price, but I had the first ones. I was like, no man, those things are made of like candy, like they'll crumple away.
Well, the other thing too is that they no longer paint their joints. They used to paint their joints before.
Oh, interesting.
And that also caused some of the problem. And they actually didn't even tell people to heat the joints or anything like that out of the package. So a lot of people were just taking it right out of the package and snap, there goes a leg, snap, there goes an arm. Just like NECA, right? When NECA first came on the market, people were snapping arms left and right. And that was the main reason why, is because the paint apps were just so heavy on them that the joints couldn't be moved unless you heated them. So
Kind of like
now they have more space between their joints, and they don't paint the joint pieces anymore either.
Kind of like any Marvel Legend you buy these days, you pretty much are like guaranteed that you have to heat it up.
Right. Yeah.
I just heat up all my figures anyways, just because I just never know. Even some of the ones that you never had to heat up before, like Star Wars, I never used to have to heat those up. I had one snap just right out of the box, so now I just heat up all my figures right out of the package just to be safe.
Right into the microwave.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting like some Joy Toy in hand. Other than like I've got a couple of the play sets, and I think I've had like one of the older figures, and I was like, oh, okay. But no, I don't know. I guess the incentive is just having a little bit of extra cash kicking around. So
yeah, their play sets seem to be pretty reasonably priced.
They are.
Like
that's
kind of surprising to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for what they are.
Their pricing in general isn't as bad as it used to be. It's still kind of up there, but it's not as bad as what it used to be. And then nowadays, the prices come down pretty quickly. Like you don't have to wait too long. Before you had to wait for ages for the prices to drop because of the fact that they just didn't have the numbers. Now I think they produce so much more than they used to that they can afford to drop the prices a little bit here and there. But that's why I buy from places like LT Cave, because their Joy Toy prices are probably better than anywhere else I've seen.
Well, what's the price point in the States for a Joy Toy, like an Army Builder figure, the cheap guys?
Oh, $300. No, for the army builders right now, you can find them on Amazon for 18 to 19. Sometimes it drops to 17. If you go to like AliExpress, you can find them for 15-ish around there. So that's
Well,
kind of
that's
the
not
range I've
too
seen.
bad. 'Cause I paid 23 for the Army Builder.
That's about the average price for those in Canadian
Yeah.
dollars.
Canadian dollars.
But
Yeah.
buy them from, if you're gonna get them, I definitely recommend checking out LT Cave because one, they ship really fast. They ship faster than Big Bad Toy Store. That usually within 3 weeks, as long as it's not a pre-order, we usually within 3 weeks you have that package in hand. Or sometimes even less. Actually, usually it's less than that. It's usually within like a couple of weeks.
Was it
You have
called
in hand.
LT?
LT, so Larry Thomas, and then the word cave.
Okay.
It used to be Locker Toys. That's why. That's what
Oh,
the LT.
okay.
It
That
used to be
makes sense.
Locker Toys. Now they're called LTK. I think they rebranded just a little bit after they started to renegotiate with some of their partners, like with Haya
Got it.
Toys
Okay.
and all those guys, because
Mhm.
now they're carrying Haya Toy stuff again. Because after a while, they weren't carrying their stuff anymore. So I think they redid a contract with them, and now they're carrying their stuff. So they have a lot of pre-orders. That's why I already pre-ordered a lot of my G.I. Joe Haya
And
Toy
they're
figures.
sponsoring you too, right? That's
Yeah.
I wasn't supposed to mention that part. But yeah, it's such a great, and they have a point system. So the more you buy,
Ooh,
you
cool.
collect points. So then you could put that towards shipping stuff. So that's the only reason why I'm mentioning all this is because I have a very fixed budget, and so because of that, I have to save my pennies anyway, and anywhere I can. So I always try to find the best deals, and so far that's why I'm advocating so much for that site, because of the fact that I want them to do continued business, because then they're going to continue doing better business, lowering their prices, and I can order more. So that's the end
There you
result.
go.
I just want to try to push everyone towards LTK.
So there is a motive.
You're not trying to help us out at all.
Yeah, what's going on here?
You
But,
sign
all
up
about
under
me.
Pirates, and then
Yeah.
you get somebody to sign up under Pirates. And
There you go.
My Joy Toy collection is quickly catching up to my G.I. Joe collection, and that's saying
Wow.
something because I have a lot of G.I. Joes. But we did a Joy Toy video 2 or 3 years ago with my sons. We laid them all on a table, and like I look back at that thumbnail, I'm like, that was a lot. And I've gotten way more since then. Like I love them. I love them. They're the non-IP, teams you can get, like the red faction, the blue faction, the red, yellow faction. It's awesome. Like the white snakes are so cool. They kind of drifted a little way away from that, kind of with the Battle of the Stars. I think that was my favorite. And I never got into the Chinese line that they did with those more fantasy or classic. Like I kind of skipped those ones, but the Infinity and the Warhammer, I don't want any except for the one orc who's the mechanic. Everything Warhammer, I'm like
Warhammer.
well, it's just like a stormtrooper. It's so recognizable. I can't see it anything else, right? And I don't need to recreate.
Those motorcycles are pretty badass.
Oh yeah, they're really
the vehicles look cool, but I just don't like that bulky armor. I just don't like the style of that armor. Like you said, it's very iconic.
Yeah.
And then what's one of the things I don't like about it is because of the fact that you can't see anything other than a Warhammer.
Exactly. Yeah. So
figure,
every time I see those guys, I'm reminded of those guys from the Fifth Element, right at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, that's exactly. It doesn't look practical. Like you see that big bulky thing, you think, oh, I can dance circles around that thing. There's no way you can move quickly.
But so like their middle ground, that's why the true builder pack is so appealing, because it's not Warhammer, it's not Infinity, and it's cheaply priced.
Yeah.
And I was worried about quality, and I got them. I was like, these are really good. So like that and Marauders, I'm like dumping my money into right now. It's just like I just want some. I don't care about Luke Skywalker. I just want some faceless dudes that I can throw in for squads. So yeah, I think I hope Joy Toy keeps doing that. Here's some IP, but here's some other random stuff we're doing too that has nothing attached to it. Like it's great.
I think that's their jam, though. Is to like I think the getting the IPs to help grow their business,
right? They boost it up,
but then still doing their own thing. Because the thing is, a lot of the artists, they demonstrate a lot of the ideas that they have. Like they showcase stuff that they have that they actually pitched to Joy Toy. Let's go with this character. Let's design this character. And some of the designs they come up with are so intricate and so detailed. It's like, how can Joy Toy say no? to
Right.
those things.
Yeah.
And the only reason why they can afford to not say no is because of the fact that they have those IPs that are doing so well. Like Warhammer's, that's what really got them on the map is Warhammer.
Yeah, I agree.
Really took it
Yeah.
to the next level.
Yeah.
And that's what allows them to take chances and do those other IPs or do their own projects as
It's
well.
smart.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely looking forward to getting the Joy Toy. But I think that's going to be it for episode 2 of Sci-Fi Guys. I want to thank everybody for coming out, and everybody tell them where they can find you and where you're at during the week on YouTube or wherever.
I'm right here.
Start with Dom.
Hey, Dom, Toy Domination. So we stream every Thursday. My recorded videos have started to slow down because I'm taking more time to do more story stuff, which I'm really excited about. So if you haven't seen the Carbon Snow one, go check that out. I really enjoy doing that.
Great
It
one.
seems to be that people who watched it really liked it. So I think I'm driving the channel towards that. So it does take a little bit longer to do all those though. So, but yeah.
Yeah, that's great work.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I
It
love
was a
it.
lot of work. Thanks.
Pirates of the Galaxy. What are you working on, man?
So every Wednesday on YouTube, you can find me and Lord of Thane. We have our Whip Wednesday live stream, and that's every 5 p.m. Eastern time every Wednesday, and we talk about different projects that we are working on, whether it be our monthly theme, or we showcase other art creators as well and what they're working on. And as well as the fact that we have a little segment called the Weekly Greebly, where we talk about different Greeblies you can use in different projects and how you could use them and that sort of thing. So every Wednesday, Whip Wednesday Live is what we have. And then throughout the week, I'm going to try to get back into making my recorded videos. I'm actually working on one right now for the Weekly Whip that was supposed to be out on Friday, but editing takes a lot longer than I would hope sometimes. So that should be out this week. So the Weekly Whip is continuing, and that's more the behind the scenes of my work in progress projects. So you'll be seeing that again this week.
It's awesome.
Very awesome. And Timbo, where can people go buy your stuff?
Well, you can find me on eBay, Timbo Toys. You can find me on Instagram, Timbo Toys. I'm very inconsistent with releasing YouTube videos, but every once in a while I do dabble. So
excellent.
Something shows up. But actually have a bunch of new stuff that I'll be releasing this week. I designed, you guys get to hear about it first, but I designed, inspired by my parents' Roomba droid.
Wow.
I designed a little cleaner droid for everybody's station that you can unleash and just clean up your messes on your station.
Oh my goodness. That's so funny that you say that. I'm doing something similar as well as part of our monthly challenge for February.
Cool. Yeah.
Hopefully it does.
It's called the K79. K is short for Karina, which is Japanese for cleaner.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
That's really
Very
cool.
good. Thanks for checking out the show. You know where to find everybody. And until next time, take it easy.